Chapter 1. Under a cloud-covered night sky, 4 figures exited a Russian-built Mi-8 helicopter into the dry Afghanistan wasteland. They fanned out, taking a knee, rifles up at the ready. Their eyes scanned the terrain through night scopes. Their helicopter's engines grew louder, and the increased downdraft peppered their backs with stinging grit as it left. As soon as the noise died away, the team leader signalled them onward. It had dropped them 5 miles from their target destination to avoid detection. They broke into a fast tab to cover the distance. Checking his GPS, the lead signaled stop. They drank to rehydrate as steams of sweat ran down their grease-covered faces. The SAS team lay on their bellies, peeping over the ridge of a dried-up riverbed. Smudge focused through his night sight, keeping watch to the eerie green-enhanced view on their target. The team's leader, Danny Pearson, ran through the intel and mission plan one more time. "Okay, guys, intel puts the hostages in this compound here. Our objective is to get diplomat Richard Mann, his wife, and his son out. If we can do that without things turning into a shitstorm, all the better," said Danny, tapping the aerial reconnaissance photo. "We'll follow the natural cover of the riverbed to here. On the all clear, we'll have to sprint the final 40 metres of open ground up to the wall, okay?" He paused for the team's affirmation. "At the wall, Smudge, Chaz, you cover the alley to the north and our exit route south. Me and Fergus will enter the compound here and extract the hostages." Their senses heightened as the rising adrenaline flowed through their veins. "Remember, if the shit hits the fan, lay down heavy covering fire and get back here. I'll call in an airstrike and we'll move out for extraction, okay?" Following the plan, they moved along the low-lying riverbed. It wound left and right until it eventually cornered close to the wall. Heads barely over the bank, they checked out the compound through their sights. "Guards 2 o'clock, top of the east tower," said Chaz. "Roger that," said Danny. "Guard heading away from us up the northern alley," said Smudge, scanning the far corner. "I see him. Roger that." They watched for a few more minutes to be sure no more guards were on sentry duty. The drone images in their mission intel showed around a dozen Al-Qaeda fighters in the compound. "Guard on the wall is moving away," said Chaz, his eyes still glued to the target. "Okay, get set. We move on 3. Danny paused for a few more seconds to make sure the guard didn't turn back. 1, 2, 3. Moving as fast as they could with 40 kilos of kit on their backs, the men ran tight and low to the base of the compound wall. Swivelling around, they planted their backs against it, guns immediately up as the 4 of them covered every direction, listening. Silence. No yelling. No alarm raised. "Right, let's get this done by the book, guys. No heroics," said Danny, waving off Smudge and Chaz to cover the far corner, while he and Fergus headed for the compound entrance. 2 metres from the corner, Smudge lay down on his front while Chaz took a knee, his back to Smudge as he covered the rear and Danny's exit route. Moving incredibly slowly, Smudge edged forward in silence in the dark. He got his eyes around the corner and looked up the northern alley. His eyes searched in the one dim light source from a lamp at the top of the alley. To his surprise, a red dot appeared no more than 4 metres away. A guard's face glowed red as he leaned back against the wall and sucked on his cigarette. Fighting the urge to flinch away, Smudge inched back behind the corner. He tapped Chaz on the shoulder and signalled eyes on 1. Sliding off his pack and rifle, he pulled his knife and turned back. Chaz stood glued to the corner, silenced gun at the ready if needed. Smudge moved painstakingly slowly into the darkness of the alley. Bored and tired, the guard finished his cigarette, throwing the butt to the ground. He reached for his rifle propped up against the wall. He didn't get close. A hand clamped over his mouth, the feeling of cold steel against his hot neck, barely having time to register. Smudge thrust the knife up into the base of his skull, killing him instantly. "Contact! Hostile down! Mission still a go!" came over Danny's earpiece. "Roger that. Entering compound now." Keeping as flat against the wall as he could, Danny crouched by the arch entrance to the compound. Reaching into his pack, he removed a little telescopic rod with a mirror attached. Extending it slowly at floor level, He twisted it around until he finally picked up the reflection of the 2 guards just inside. 10 yards in, right-hand side, he whispered into his throat mic.
Roger that,
came Fergus's whispered reply. I'll take those 2, you cover my back and look for the one up the wall, whispered Danny, packing the mirror stick away and exchanging it for his suppressed rifle.
Roger that,
came Fergus's reply as he tucked in tighter behind Danny. On my mark, you're clear, Smudge. Lying on top of the dead guard as he covered the alley, Smudge nodded to Chaz.
Affirmative, good to go.
Danny swung around through the arch, eyeing the guards. He double-tapped 2 shots into the centre mass of each guard, dropping them like a stone. Another couple of metallic pings sounded behind him, followed by a thud as the guard fell off the wall onto the dirt floor. They took a knee with guns up, covering the courtyard in anticipation of attack. No alarm, no guards, all quiet. The 2 of them dragged the bodies behind a beaten-up old pickup truck parked against the compound wall. They continued toward the building that on the satellite pictures was marked as the hostage location. Hostiles down! Proceed to hostile location! Whispered Danny over the mic.
Roger that, perimeter clear,
replied Chaz. They moved low past the first building. Lights were on and they could hear voices chattering and laughing through the open windows. Danny moved in the lead to the door of the hostage block, with Fergus walking backwards covering the rear. I'll take point, you take my left, whispered Danny as they both stood, ready to storm the building.
Roger that.
Moving through the door fast, they fell into a well-practiced search manoeuvre. As they swept through the rooms, they found no guards. The reason became clear as soon as they entered the last room. Lying on the ground 3 feet away from his own head was the diplomat's decapitated body. Lying next to him on their sides with their hands tied behind them lay his wife and son with their throats cut, their faces locked in the terrifying last moments of life. They stood locked, unable to pull away from the scene for a few long seconds. The smell of death and sound of buzzing flies was etching its way into their memories forever.
Fuck! Fucking bastards!
Said Danny, the shock sending his mind spiralling. His own wife and child had been killed a couple of years ago when a lorry driver crushed their car before driving off, never to be found. Deep, suppressed feelings came flooding to the surface as he looked at the bodies in front of him, images of his wife and son appearing over the top of them as his mind overloaded with emotion.
Fucking bastards! Bastards!
Mission abort. Hostages are dead. We're coming out. Prepare for evac, said Fergus, tapping Danny on the shoulder.
Roger that,
came Smudge's reply. Danny, time to go, mate. Dazed, Danny followed Fergus out the door without responding. As they passed the building with the lights on, Danny stopped. Fucking bastards, he kept muttering over and over.
Danny, what you doing, boss?
asked Fergus, watching horrified as Danny charged the door. Inside, the locked Al-Qaeda fighters stumbled and tripped out of their chairs, trying frantically to grab their rifles. A hail of automatic fire ripped through the room. Blood and plaster filled the air. None of them managed to get a round off before Danny's gun clicked empty. As the dust settled, the door from the kitchen burst open and a screaming fanatic hurled towards him with a meat cleaver in his hand. Still enraged beyond reason, Danny dropped his rifle and charged directly at the man, pulling his commando knife from its sheath as he went. A second before contact, the man flew backwards onto a bunk in a cloud of red mist, 3 rounds from Fergus's rifle hitting him squarely in the chest. Danny pulled to a stop, breathing heavily, with a tear rolling down his cheek. Fergus came up next to him and put his arm around his shoulder.
Come on, mate, it's over. Let's go home.
His face as hard as granite, Danny wiped his eyes, turned and picked up his rifle. Loading a fresh magazine into it, he walked out of the building. Smudge, Chaz, we're coming out. Clear for evac, he said.
All clear, boss. Come on out.
I can't do this anymore. I'm done.